Elaine Byrne thought it would be just another day tending her bees, until they turned on her. Moments after hundreds of stings sent her body into shock, she collapsed, flatlined, and slipped into death. But what happened next defied science and shattered everything she believed about life. In the space between worlds, she was welcomed, warned, and shown the stunning truth behind existence. This is her story, and the secret of life she brought back.
My name is Elaine Byrne. I was 45 years old when this happened, and I live in a quiet part of County Clare, Ireland. At the time, I worked as a herbalist. I had a deep love for nature, plants, and the simple rhythm of living close to the earth. I also kept bees. I'd been doing it for years and had come to see them almost like family, tiny, buzzing workers with a kind of wisdom I respected. I've always been intuitive. I tend to sense when something feels off, and I usually trust that feeling. It's helped me avoid trouble more than once. But on one warm morning in August 2013, I didn't listen. My partner at the time was very set on checking the hives that day. We'd planned to do it early. But as I was getting dressed, something in my chest said no. It wasn't a loud voice, but more like a deep tug in my gut. It said, "Don't go." I hesitated. I even mentioned it. But I didn't want to argue or stir up tension between us. So I pushed the feeling aside and got my gear. As we walked up to the field, I still felt uneasy. The wind had picked up a little, and there was a strange silence. My bees were usually calm in the morning, almost welcoming. But today, something felt wrong. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. That I was just tired. I kept going. That was the moment I turned away from what I knew deep down. I didn't know it yet, but ignoring that quiet warning would take me to the edge of death, and far beyond anything I could have imagined. As soon as I stepped near the hive, I knew something was off. The bees weren't just busy, they were loud, fast, and angry. They started circling my head, hitting the netting of my visor harder than usual. Some of them were even trying to squeeze through the edges of my suit, aiming for my neck and face. It was like they didn't recognize me anymore. I'd handled bees for years, and they had never acted like this. Normally, they were peaceful. We had a rhythm, an understanding. But not that day. It was like I was a stranger to them, or worse, a threat. I tried to keep calm and stepped away, moving slowly across to the next field like you're supposed to do when bees get upset. But they didn't let up. They followed me. I could feel the stings, sharp, hot pinches through the thin parts of the suit. Then I started to swell. My lip puffed up quickly, my eyes began to close, and my chest felt like someone was sitting on it. My heart was thudding hard in my chest, out of rhythm, too fast. I looked at my partner and said, "We have to go. Now." The walk back home was only about half a mile, but it felt like forever. With every step, it got harder to breathe. My lungs felt thick, like they were filling with something, not air. I tried to stay upright, but I knew I was fading. The sky started to blur, and my vision came in and out like a bad signal. My head felt heavy. I couldn't hear clearly. Something was happening, and I knew it wasn't good. By the time we reached the house, I couldn't even stand without help. My body was shutting down, and I could feel it happening. When we got to the house, I collapsed on the grass just outside the door. I thought maybe if I lay down for a minute, I could calm my body and catch my breath. But it only got worse. My chest was tight like it was being squeezed from the inside. It wasn't panic, it was something real, something I couldn't fight. I sat up quickly because I felt like I was drowning. My lungs weren't taking in air. I looked at my partner and said, "We need to go now." I could hardly get the words out. We got into the car and headed for the emergency clinic, just a few miles away. Every second in that car felt like an hour. I looked down at my chest and saw it, my heart. It was pounding so hard I could see it pushing against my skin, like it was trying to get out. I knew I was close to the edge. I tried to stay calm, tried to breathe slowly, but I was slipping. Everything around me started to fade. The colors dulled, the sounds got softer. I remember thinking, this is it. My body is pulling the blood from my brain to save my heart. I understood what was happening, but I couldn't stop it. As we pulled up to the clinic, my partner opened the car door for me. And that's when it happened. Everything turned white. And then, nothing. At first, it was just white. Not a cold or empty white, more like a soft fog, gentle and still. I couldn't see anything clearly, but I could feel it. A kind of warmth, like I was wrapped in a blanket I didn't know I needed. There was no pain. No panic. Just peace. Then the light started to shift. I began to see colors inside the white, soft shimmering waves of pink, gold, green, and blue. They moved like silken water, slow and graceful. It was beautiful. Like watching sunlight through a crystal. I felt myself rising, but not in a rush. I wasn't walking or flying, I was just being lifted. Carried, maybe. Supported by something kind, something alive. Then I heard it, these gentle, sparkling sounds. Like glass tapping against glass. Champagne flutes maybe. It made me smile. My first thought was strange but clear, is there a party for me? I didn't feel fear. Not one bit. I didn't even feel confused. I felt loved. I felt known. It was like I was finally in a place that understood me without words, without history, without judgment. A place I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. Joy filled every part of me. Not the kind of joy that jumps up and down. A deep, calm joy that made me feel safe, completely and totally safe. I felt held, the way a mother holds a child who has just come in from the rain. And in that moment, I thought, so this is what it feels like to be truly loved. As the light danced around me, the space began to take shape. What had been soft fog and color slowly turned into something more solid. I found myself standing in what looked like a large, open lounge. Everything was bright, white, but warm. Not empty or sterile, but full of life. There were white couches, soft lighting that didn't come from any lamps, and a peaceful glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Then I saw them. My grandfather was the first to appear. He looked just like I remembered, gentle eyes, soft smile, but somehow younger, stronger. Standing beside him was my aunt, the one who used to slip sweets to me when no one was looking. She looked radiant, glowing in a way that made her spirit shine even more than her face. I didn't hear them speak, but I knew what they were saying. You're here. We're so glad to see you. Behind them, I caught a glimpse of my childhood dog, Bonnie. She was wagging her tail, running in circles, just like she used to. I laughed. Not a laugh of surprise, but of deep, comforting recognition. There was no fear, no sadness. Just a feeling that I had arrived at the place I truly belonged. They weren't shocked to see me. They were expecting me. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I had done something right. Like I had made it. I thought to myself, this is it. I've come home. I was just about to step further into the space when everything shifted again. The light around me thickened, almost like mist wrapping itself into form. And then, standing in front of me, was a being unlike anything I had ever seen before. The figure was tall, taller than any person I'd ever met. At least 9 feet, maybe more. Radiant and strong, but not frightening. The being's skin shimmered like pale blue crystal, smooth and glowing softly. They wore a long white robe that flowed without moving, as if made of light itself. Though they had no clear gender, there was a soft, feminine energy about them, something deeply comforting and protective. They didn't speak with a voice, but I heard them as clearly as if they had. A gentle message filled my mind, warm and firm at the same time. Darling, you're not expected yet. That was it. No judgment. No explanation. Just a kind, loving truth delivered straight into my heart. I didn't argue. I didn't feel rejected. I felt held, completely, wholly, unconditionally. As I looked up into the being's eyes, I saw something I can't explain. It was like looking through a window into forever. I saw stars. I saw galaxies. I saw movement, stillness, time, and something beyond time. It was like the entire universe lived behind their eyes. In that moment, I understood that this being wasn't here to stop me, but to guide me gently back to where I was meant to be. And somehow, I was okay with that. As soon as the being spoke those words, the space around me began to shift. The brightness that once held me started to dim, not in a cold way, but like a soft curtain being drawn. The sounds, the gentle crystal chimes, the humming of light, faded slowly, as if someone were turning down the volume on a beautiful song. I looked back once more toward the lounge, where my family had stood, and they were already starting to fade into the light. No sadness, just quiet smiles. I understood. It wasn't my time. There was no grand mission given. No list of tasks to bring back with me. Instead, I was filled with a kind of knowing. A deep truth that planted itself inside me without words. Life is about joy, about love, and about peace that lives inside your heart. That's it. That's the secret. The light pulled back more, and the air around me became heavier. The floating feeling began to slip away. Slowly, I became aware of weight again, of my body. My arms, my legs, the pressure in my chest. I could feel the return before I saw anything. My spirit was sliding back into something much smaller, more confined. I was coming back to the world I had left. When I opened my eyes, everything was blurry and strange. I could hear voices, some close, some far away. My head was heavy, and the light in the room felt too sharp. As my vision cleared, I saw faces leaning over me. Pale, wide-eyed, silent. People frozen in shock. The first thing I felt wasn't pain. It was warmth. Odd, unexpected warmth. Then came a sudden wave of embarrassment. I realized I had wet myself. That simple, very human detail made everything feel real again. I was back in my body. I turned to the doctor and asked in a whisper, "What are my vitals?" He didn't answer right away. He just shook his head, almost in disbelief. "We didn't think you'd make it," he said. "Your heart, we couldn't get a proper reading." In that moment, I knew. I hadn't just blacked out or fainted. I had died. Fully, completely, left this world and crossed into something far beyond it. And what I saw over there, what I felt, it wasn't a dream. It wasn't my brain trying to protect me. It was real. The doctors later told me I had suffered what they called empty heart syndrome. My body had gone into such shock from the stings that the blood drained away and couldn't return fast enough. My heart had no support, and everything nearly shut down. I was lucky to be alive, they said. I knew better. I hadn't just been lucky. I had been sent back. It took me 3 months to fully recover. I rested, thought, and stayed mostly quiet. During those quiet days, I started to question everything, my life, my choices, the things I thought mattered. It was like I had come back with a clearer lens. And through it, nothing looked the same. I left my marriage. It had been empty for years, but I had stayed out of habit. I gave up the big house, the land, and the job that no longer brought me peace. I walked away from all of it, without fear or regret. I moved into a small cottage tucked into the hills, surrounded by trees and sky. I began again, slowly, with care. I planted a garden, kept my own rhythm, and chose joy every day. For the first time in my life, I was really living. What I learned from that experience will stay with me for the rest of my life, and maybe beyond. The secret isn't complicated. It's not hidden in books or earned through success. It's simple: joy and love in your heart are the real wealth. Not the kind of joy that comes from things, but the deep, quiet kind that sits in your chest when you feel at peace. When I was gone, none of my possessions followed me. Not my house, my job, or my plans. None of it mattered. The only thing that stayed with me was the love I had given and the love I had received. That's what carried weight. That's what mattered. We are loved more deeply than we can possibly understand. That love isn't something far away, it's already inside us. We don't have to earn it. We only need to let it in. To feel it. To trust it. So if you're tired, if you're hurting, or if you've lost your way, come back to that place in your heart. Find the joy that lives there. Even in this messy world, it's possible. Because we are not alone. We are part of something far greater than we know.